just to give you a background of my history as far as calling goes. And I've been in CALLERLAB ever since I was eligible. In fact, I may have cheated one year and came a year early. I don't know. Back then it was pretty strict. But anyhow, they didn't throw me out. Due to my involvement in the RPM committee, how many people in here are aware of what RPM is doing? Anyhow, we have a very, very active, I feel it's the most active committee that I've ever been associated with. And I had the committee that Stan now heads, and he's turned it around, and it's very active also, the Liaison Committee, the Callers Association Liaison Committee. And that's working fine. But anyhow, through the voicemail and everything that happens with people that will respond by telephone but not by mail, I've really received about 600 individual communications since last April. Okay, and trying to keep track of all that and what people were doing for square dancing, what they've tried, what they felt worked, what they felt didn't work to market our product. Okay, and I've kept a record of that, and from time to time I send it to the CALLERLAB office for publication in the directions and in Stan's link, okay, through the Callers Association. I'd like to make a statement that and I'm only making this not in a negative way, but we're all trying to figure out what's wrong with square dancing and so on and so forth, and I've heard a lot of talk. What's wrong with square dancing is not got anything to do with the list or the length of lessons. We need to keep that in mind. And I'm an opinionated person, as Stan will tell you. But what's wrong with square dancing today, before we go any further, is that we have sat around on our hind ends so long as callers. We've been standing back at the coffee pot, letting the clubs do their thing with new officers that's brand new in the club that don't know how to book, that don't know where to go to look for another building if they have to, and things of that sort. And as callers, we've been not involved with club activities and so on. The only way we can lead folks is from the front. You know, we got to come up into the leadership role. And so to market our product and to do a good job of it and be cohesive and be coordinated, we must lead the effort in marketing our product. And I believe to market our product, the end result is we want to recruit people into our activity. That's the end result of marketing, isn't it? Isn't that what we're trying to do? To that end, I will turn over to Stan and let him do his thing, and I will come back and wrap it up with what I feel has happened with RPM and my conclusions that I've reached through the RPM committee. Stan Burdick, my panelist, has been calling for a mere 48 years, and he started calling when he was 2. And Kathy wasn't even thought about at that time, incidentally. She came along in life about 20 years later, so Kathy is really young. Stan, due to his traveling commitments and everything, as you all know, Stan is former owner, publisher, editor, and everything for ASD, he thought, but I noticed every time Kathy got sick, the book went to pot. But anyhow, that's another story. Anyhow, he's been a member of the Board of Governors several times. Stan's one of the guys who comes in and runs his term, gets off for a year, and then thinks about it and comes back. He gives somebody else a chance to come in and not be on the board all the time. And anyhow, he is also chairman of the Caller Liaison Committee. He asked that anybody that belongs to or knows of an association, a Callers Association, that he needs the name of the corresponding secretary today. Not when you get back home, because you'll forget it. Okay? We're trying to get to every association with all the good things that's going on in CALLERLAB. Very difficult to do when callers are dropping out of calling, when they're moving, when the association doesn't get back to us and let us know who's in charge. So put your hands together for Mr. Stan Burdick.
Thank you, Keith. It's great. I love it. I enjoy talking about this subject, and Keith may have to shut me up. You know, sometimes as a former editor of a magazine and as a caller, my wife Kathy says sometimes you have diarrhea of the mouth. And I don't understand what that means. Do you, Keith? Because you do? Okay. Well, I've got to work on that. Go to the dictionary and find out. But anyway, I do talk a lot. And on the other hand, though, we want to hear from you today. I'm sure Keith will reiterate that. Is that a good word? They're using that word a lot, reiterate. I don't know what that means, but it sounds good. So we hope that you will submit ideas and stuff all the way through here. I have a couple of good stories. First of all, let me say this, and this is a nice little quote that you might be able to use somewhere. You know, if you kiss a girl in the dark, you know what you're doing, but nobody else does. Okay? And isn't it true that square dancing is a little like that? That it's a great thing. Kissing a girl in the dark is great too, isn't it? But if we don't get the word out, why, nobody's going to know about it. And I don't think we've even done half the job we could in getting the word out. So that's what this is all about today. And we hope that we can get some new ideas, fresh ideas, and get you inspired to get the word out a little better. Okay? This little squib about this session, if you read it, said something about ideas that are good and ideas that aren't so good. I don't know why they want ideas that aren't so good, but I have one. I do cartooning. I like to do this just as a hobby. I do cartooning. And once I did a cartoon, and the gal was approaching the minister and said, I'm promoting square dancing. Would you do me a favor? In the prayer, just before you get to the Amen, would you say, join our square dance club? Just before the Amen. And, of course, it's just a ridiculous idea. But on the other hand, maybe we need to explore no matter what it is. Maybe we need to get to that same minister of the church and say, could we put an item on the bulletin board? Could we get something in your church bulletin? And that kind of thing. So maybe we're missing the boat in certain things like that. I do have a couple more stories. One is very cute, and I didn't know that this would be a possibility, but by golly, a guy did it. Down in Florida, Red Bates. Anybody know Red Bates? He's, of course, New England and Florida. And he said, we were searching around for an idea down here in a little town where I am down in Florida, and we tried this. Everybody in Florida goes to garage sales. Okay? And maybe you do too. How many like garage sales? You drift off to garage sales now and then, okay? Well, everybody in Florida, they're retired, they got plenty of time, they go to garage sales. So for very little money, almost pennies, he went to the newspaper, and under the section for garage sales, he put an ad for the square dance class, and he got 3 squares. Now you see, every time they get the paper, they start reading, where's the garage sales today? We got to go. And so they start reading down. They come with the 5th item in there, and it says, a better sale for you would be to think about square dancing. Here's a good sale for you. And then it goes into a little more detail about their square dance sale. And he got 3 squares out of that. So just a little idea like that. So you never know where some of these ideas are going to come from. A whole slew of ideas, some of which Keith may repeat, were thrown out in his RPM committee yesterday. And a whole lot of things that we can use. I'm trying not to repeat any of those in the things that I have to say today. My next story is about a Holiday Inn manager out in the West somewhere. Somebody got the bright idea. I have a friend who happens to be manager of a Holiday Inn. He has 60 employees. So he went to that manager and convinced him that square dancing was fun, got him to go to the opening dance. And the manager and his wife were so enthused about it, he said, let me help you. So on the employees' bulletin board, he had this little statement. He said, any of you employees that would like to have a good time, come to next Tuesday, it's still open, come to the square dance class with Mary and me, and we'd love to have you join us. Well, now, don't you think those employees want to get a little closer to the manager and his wife? And that caller announced that he got 3 squares of mostly employees of the Holiday Inn, and some others, but it was a start. And there you go. When I was doing classes years ago, I don't do them much now because of the travel and so forth. When I was doing them once before, we went to various places to get sponsorship. And I want to emphasize that joint sponsorship is great, because sometimes if you get joint sponsorship, it doesn't cost you anything, but that sponsor, which can be an organization or a group of people or whatever, can help you immensely with names. Let me give you an example. I worked for the YMCA, and in the Y, they have a list of 5,000 names that they send things to, particularly their once-a-year, twice-a-year brochure. So they got square dancing on that, and it was held in the Y, and the Y sent to all those people, and naturally, with that kind of promotion, you're going to get more than you and your few people in your club can get. And so that's an idea for joint sponsorship, and it will work. Maybe a facility, and maybe the promotion ready-made. Not only that, but a church, back to churches, sometimes they will co-sponsor. Now, this is a little rare, because many churches wouldn't think of co-sponsoring. But one church I know of that we worked with, they said, yes, we can entertain your group. It's half the regular fee for the hall. And the regular fee was only $30, and we got it for $15 every time we met. $15 for a nice little hall that held 8 sets. Furthermore, as sort of unofficial co-sponsors, they put it in their bulletins that all the church people saw, and we got a nice group from that. Incidentally, while we're talking about church groups help, the best group that I ever had came from a church adults couples club. Now, why? When people associate with each other, and it's kind of a clique in a way, because they know each other. And if you can go as a caller, go out and give them a wonderful, entertaining time with kind of a one-night stand, just a one-night party, give them a good time, and then you say, how many of you, just happens that 3 weeks from now we're starting a square dance class, how many of you would like to have the same kind of fun that you've just had tonight and come to our class? We got 3 squares out of that, just from that church couples club, because they all start talking among themselves. They had a good time. Therefore, they say, let's go as a group. Let's do it as a group. And it worked for us. The best sponsorship, co-sponsorship we ever got was from a radio station. Now, you don't think that's possible? Folks, one of the things you've got to examine is who your people know. Who do they know? Because lots of things can happen because of not who you know, but who they know. And if they have a friendship with somebody who happens to be a newspaper editor, happens to be a radio station announcer, as we found, or whatever, you can get sponsorship, co-sponsorship. Another time, right now, I don't do classes as such now, but I'm very heavily into the CDP program. You've all heard about it, Community Dance Program, up in the little North Country area where we are, upstate New York. And we've got the Chamber of Commerce of that little town of Hague, New York, is sponsoring our CDP program. Now, this means that the way we do it every Wednesday night all through the summer coming up now, we get $50 guaranteed for our expenses. That covers me and a little refreshments and so forth, plus what we take in at the door. Okay? We've had as many as 7 sets last year, 7 sets a couple of nights. This is for families, and truly, this is not looking towards mainstream, so you've got to understand the difference. But the point is that the Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring it. Okay? And so I find through these experiences that joint sponsorship, even at a community college, we had that once, community college, if you talk to them right and if you know somebody, these organizations, institutions can help you immensely. Look into it because it's really worthwhile. Okay, now then, I would like to talk about a club in Indiana that right now has done more than anybody around it in bringing people in. And I said, what did you do? I want to know the ideas that I can pass on to people. And they said, okay, we have a small daily paper. Sometimes you can't do this in the big papers. Maybe you can't afford it. But we budget $100. The club said we need people so badly in our beginners classes, we're going to budget out of our club finances $100 for paid ads in the paper. So they ran a series, small ads, in the paper, paid ads for the classes, and because of somebody knowing somebody, and the advertising department knowing the news people knowing close relationship with the ad people, they got 2 or 3 good news stories because of putting the paid ads in. Now, you don't think this corresponds, but it does. It's a matter of a little preliminary work, a little groundbreaking, a little work towards who knows who and where can you get some help. And the paid ads helped them to get more news, free news in the front pages of the paper. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now the shoppers are great. Those little once-a-week papers will print. A lot of times they'll print anything because they're looking for stuff. So don't miss the shoppers. Don't miss those weeklies that are either thrown on the porch, or they're handed out free, or they're by subscription, because you'll get better luck with them sometimes than you with the dailies, the big dailies, okay? Because the big dailies are going to kind of say, oh, yeah, square dancing, yep, you're back, okay, well, yeah, we did a little story 2 weeks ago for you, and sometimes you don't have much luck. Company papers are great. If you've got an industry in your town or nearby that has both a company bulletin board, which is important, get an announcement there, and get your company little bulletin that they put out to the employees. That's great to get people interested. Sure.
Rest just a minute, Stan. To the company, if we all, I hope, know of a company or work for a company, and one of the things that I found out, they all are interested in health and recreation for their employees. Okay, why don't you go to that company that you may belong to or may not belong to, but have a friend that belongs to or a square dancer belongs to, and say, listen, if you'll sponsor us, the key word here is sponsor us, I will come in and do lessons for you for a minimal fee of such and such, or for free, however you want to do that. You'd be surprised. One of the biggest square dance clubs that I ever heard of was out of Beaumont, Texas. It belonged to a DuPont recreation club. You know, like they had 300 couples that belonged to the club. And you could go in there and call for, and they've booked out-of-town callers and so on. So that what Stan's treading on right here is near and dear to my heart, because I was needing a hall, and you people that was in the RPM committee meeting is going to hear the same thing again, but I was in need of a hall. We got run out of a hall we was in because the new minister didn't want square dancing in the church. And we had danced at this hall for one special dance, 55 squares on a wooden floor with a stage that would dance 10 squares, completely air-conditioned with a marble entryway. And because I wrote a letter, professionally written, and by going to the back of the dictionary and figuring out how to do this, to a gas company, a national headquarters in Charleston, West Virginia, and said, would you please sponsor our dance? We would like to have your facilities from 6 o'clock on Tuesdays until 9:30 or whatever it was that I wrote them. And would you please get back to us? And I sent along proof of insurance, okay, that you get from a CALLERLAB office. And would you sponsor us? And, you know, what would be the contract? I got that hall absolutely free of charge, and they provide the janitor. Now, just by writing a letter. So what Stan is talking about here, now, the good thing that happened about that, the manager of the building at night, one of their wheels, came to me and he said, you know, our employees get off at 5:30. And they're all going downtown to an exercise. Got a lot of them going to an exercise club. Said, why don't you offer lessons at 6 o'clock? Well, about the time we were ready to do that, they got into a government deal where they had to ask us to leave the hall until they got over this thing with the Chapter 11. Anyhow, they have made contact with us several times. But what I'm saying here is, don't just go into the company and look for sponsorship in one way. Provide them with something. If you're going to do it, tell them, hey, if you give me a hall, I'll show these people the greatest times of their lives.
Mm-hmm. Good, Keith. Thank you for that. Okay, more ideas. Now, some of these, you're going to say, well, they won't work in our area, but you never know. Sometimes you got to try them. Somebody said, I wear a gambler tie to work, not just a bolo tie. It's a difference. Anybody got a gambler tie here? Let's look around. Gambler tie it's like a bow tie with the strings like this, and you know what I mean, okay? And people notice that because it's different, and like a Kentucky gambler's tie, okay? And everybody asks questions. Why are you wearing that tie? Well, we're having square dance classes, and this is just a reminder. And then he's into the conversation with fellow employees. Hey, it worked for him. Might work for somebody else. Okay, and it's not ridiculous to wear one of those gambler ties. Okay, a club in New Jersey. They did this thing of the CCC. Are you familiar with the CCC? Okay. In August, if you're running your classes in September, or if you're running them in October or whatever, 2 months ahead, you will have a CCC. Now that means you'll have a chairman, a committee, and a campaign. And a lot of times we forget that. We let the club, and remember now, Keith has said this in RPM, and he's going to say it again today, I'm sure. It's up to us. It's up to us as callers to get these things started, because the dancers aren't doing that much. We've got to do it. So see to it that you have a CCC. That means that you'll have a chairman, a committee, maybe only 5 people, but a committee, and a campaign. And you'll plan it 2 months ahead. And then you'll have what in business they call brainstorming. I'm sure you know what we're talking about. You'll sit around as a group and say, what can we do this year that gets us out of the rut of the things we did last year? What can we add to it to make this a real campaign? And then you prioritize. You put everything on the blackboard. Nobody can say no to anything. Put everything down. Then you start rearranging them, prioritizing, and say, well, this is really looks the best. This is the next best. Well, can we do 3 things? Let's try these 3 that they're at the top. Well, a club in New Jersey did this, and this was only 4 or 5 years ago. So maybe you think, well, numbers are bigger then, but this worked for them. They had 8 sets out of it in beginner's class. And the one idea that sold the community, small town, was banner over Main Street. They got the fire department. They got a canvas company to make up the banner. They had a painter to paint the sign. And all it said was, square dance, call, and then the phone number. Okay? And they got so many calls from that they were able to generate 8 squares in the beginner's class. Okay? Now, one thing you'll find is that you got to have this CCC, this campaign and committee, every year, because the things that worked last year don't necessarily work the next year. I don't know what it has to do. It's something about cycles. The next year they said, hey, good idea, man, we'll do it again. And they put the banner up, and they got just a very little interest the second year. Nobody knows why. But that's why you need more brainstorming the next year to look at the list of things you can do. Incidentally, we have this ready to pass out, 54 ways to find new dancers, okay? And most of the things that I'm going to say here today are briefly outlined here. And Chuck said he would pass them out. If you want to do that now, that's fine. And that same document is in a thing that Legacy puts out every year. Legacy, the leadership organization of square dancing, you've heard a lot about it, prints up a 10-page packet. It's called the Promo Pack. Every year, it's ready in the summertime. A new one is coming up this summer. This is last year's promotional. They promoted last year square dancing for the young and young at heart. The idea is take that as a poster or take it just as a promotional, and then you got 10 pages of stuff. I only have one of these. They are available, though. Some are available from last year, or you can wait and buy the new one coming out this summer. And it'll be advertised in American Square Dance Magazine and other places. So come up after if you want to and look through these pages that are provided by Legacy for $5 every year. A darn good idea to help you in this campaign. But if you have a CCC and you take these 54 ways that you've got in your hand, you can add more things to them and say, hey, gang, look through this and let's prioritize, let's brainstorm what can work in our area, and let's take a look, and then pretty soon you're going to come up with something that you've never tried before, and it's worth a shot. So you want to keep that in mind. Okay, you must have a handout informational thing that every person in your club hands out, has a stack of them. CALLERLAB has designed the very best thing available for you. If you don't want to create your own, for very little money you can buy, and your foundation has paid for these. However, there is a charge because they want to keep putting money back into the foundation for other projects. So as you perhaps know, this new song and dance routine, that colorful little handout is available at the office. If you just pick up a few and take them home and use that too as a promotional. I think every dancer, every caller should have a stack of these ready to go well before the class starts. Certainly 2 months before the class starts. These should be in your possession, in your glove compartment of the car, in the purses for the gals and so forth, okay? Better than that, maybe better than that, I don't know, but at least certainly good, is a little card. A little card, and Keith mentioned this yesterday, but a little card that you hand to a person, and it tells the details of the square dance introductory session that you're going to have, a certain date and so forth. Let me tell you about a guy in Bismarck, North Dakota that uses this card. Is anybody from Bismarck, North Dakota? Okay. Well, it's a long ways from here. This caller in Bismarck, North Dakota has the most beautiful handout card that you could imagine. It is so gorgeous that nobody can throw it away. I mean, it's got embossed letters, and it's got printed upside-down numbers all around. Have you ever seen an opera ticket? An opera ticket from New York City has all kinds of colors on it. It has numbers on it. It has a little part that pulls off on the side. It has all kinds of things. And that is so beautiful, you save it as a souvenir, don't you? Okay? He hands these out by the hundreds in Bismarck, and he is consistently, over the last few years, not recently, but over just a few years ago, he would get 10 sets of beginners every year in Bismarck, North Dakota. I swear, because I know the guy. But he's got one more thing going for him, and this is it. Keith mentioned something about health yesterday. This guy just happens to be the pharmacist as well as a caller in the downtown, right smack in the middle of the town pharmacy. Big drugstore, big pharmacy. Every time somebody comes in to pick up their subscription, or they come in to talk about something they need and so forth, he hands them, or he puts it in the sack, that beautiful card. And he said, by the way, here's a nice healthy thing for you to think about. Think about square dancing. We're starting in 3 weeks. Take this to your other half. That's part of the problem, folks. If we hand out something at work to one of the parties, we got to get it home, haven't we? We got to get it home, so we want the guy to stick it in his billfold and not lose it. We want the gal to put it in her purse and not lose it and take it home. And then at that night when she's looking through, or he's looking through, oh yeah, honey, John down at the pharmacy gave me this. Wants to know if we're interested in square dancing. And that's the secret of the thing. Sometimes these flyers that you put in grocery store bags and everything, sometimes they get thrown away so quick and they don't do a lot of good. But a little card that's beautiful that you don't want to throw away does a whole lot more good. It gets home and it gets to the other partnership, okay? So keep that in mind, that don't make anything cheap when you decide. The new song and dance routine brochure is not cheap. It's beautiful. It's colorful, and it tells the story. That's the kind of thing you need to do. Naturally, in the doctor and dentist offices, we need these brochures. And somebody mentioned the hotel literature racks. Good idea. Anywhere where people will pick them up. Jerry Helt has a good idea. Do you know how hard it is to walk into a bank and get something on the counter of a bank? Very difficult. Any bank personnel say, wait a minute, we don't promote things in this bank, okay? Jerry has the most beautiful little placard. It's a stand-up thing. It's only about so tall off the counter. And he's got kind of a winning personality. Jerry's not here today, is he? Jerry is a friendly guy, winning personality. He walks in well-dressed into the bank, And he says, would you mind, he talks to one of the bank managers, would you mind if I just put this colorful little placard right on this counter over here? And especially if he deposits money in that bank, helps a lot, right? And I don't know if he does that. But anyway, within that brochure, within that little placard, there's a little pocket, okay? In the pocket are these cards that people pull out, okay? Sometimes you need that kind of a really nice type of promotional placard in order to sell square dancing as a nice activity, not the hillbilly, kick them in the shins type activity that sometimes we see promoted, hoedown, and so forth. Okay? Do it nicely no matter what you do. American Square Dance Magazine, Sets and Order's long gone, isn't it? Has some things you can get. If you like to design your own flyers and promotionals, then why not order one of the 3 clip art books from Sets and Order? And they also have these on computer now, so you can put those in your own computer and generate all kinds of drawings and pictures and things to help design your flyer that you're going to use, or your nice colorful card that you're going to use for your promotion, okay? Sets and Order, why do I keep saying that? I just talked to Bob Osgood.
Evidently, John Sanborn hasn't paid for the magazine fully yet.
He knows a little secret that we got to make sure that American Square Dance doesn't go under because he still owes somebody. But anyway, there's a book or two that might be available besides the clip art books. There's one called Promotional something or other. Oh, wait a minute, let me think. I can't think of the name of it now. Show and Sell. That's it. Okay. Now, have I got another minute or two?
1 minute.
Oh, 1 minute. Okay. All right. I'm checking off these things that I mentioned. Okay. Welcome Wagon Hostess. One club did this. They went and found the Welcome Wagon Hostess. Nice gal. They usually pick attractive girls to go around the homes, the new homes, and give them all kinds of literature, commercial literature from the various stores and stuff, okay? Now, they're not supposed to hand out anything that isn't paid for by the commercial outfits, right? So you have to be kind of cagey and subtle about this. So they took this Welcome Wagon Hostess to a fine dinner, out to steak dinner, followed by a visit to the Square Dance Club. And she got so enthused about this fun that they were having at Square Dance and learned that they were having classes, she said, I don't care about the rules. What can I hand out to the new people? They give her a big stack of stuff to hand out, along with all the other things they hand out, to brand new homes. Now, you know where they get the new names. Utility companies give the Welcome Wagon hostesses all the names of people in homes where they're just coming into the community. What better people to go and promote to, friends? Why not? If you can get a hold of, there's another organization called Newcomers Club, okay? If you don't have Welcome Wagon, check that out. Find it, Newcomers Club, and they do the same thing. They take brochures and hand them out and say, hey, you're welcome in this community. Here are the things that are going on in this community. And a Square Dance brochure should be in their hands and into the homes of new people. Because those new people just coming to town, they're not already involved in all the bridge clubs and yacht clubs and book clubs and everything else. And they're perhaps looking for something to do instead of all those people that have been there for years and years. I'm going to stop right here. We got more stuff, but we'll come back to it later.
Thank you, Stan. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that Stan has gone off onto, and I tried to make notes as fast as I could. I thought the CC was interesting. I had not heard of that, but that makes sense to me, doesn't it to you? Anyhow, sponsorship. We were talking about sponsorship and having buy-in. One of the greatest things we ever did was get the Board of Education director, what do you call them? Superintendent of schools in our Square Dance Club. It was no longer hard to get to schools at any time we wanted them. Plus, he had an insurmountable list of people that needed to take Square Dance lessons because he said so, type of thing. Okay? Also, one time I was fortunate enough to get the professor of education, the English department at Ohio University in my club. And the next year I had a very large class of English professors that had forgotten to listen. And that's why they came out, because he said, we have taught so long, we have forgotten to listen. And so they came out, and I had a great club. Ended up with 100 couples in our club in no time. Anyhow, flyers. I go along with the flyers that we all make up to an extent. But if you just make them up to pass them out, think you're going to get something for them, I'm sorry. A plain vanilla flyer laying on a counter in a store or hung up on a bulletin board, I truly don't believe will buy you anything. I really don't. There has to be some activity involved with that flyer at the time that the people was handed the flyer. So if you're not doing that, don't waste your money on just going out and say, could I lay down 10,000 flyers in your store? I don't think you get anything for that. I know, and the other thing that I do know, that one of our board members this year spent money and had, I think the Boy Scouts put 10,000 door hangers out on doors in his area, announcing square dance lessons, and I believe it was a community dance program. He may have been. You know how many couples they got? 10,000 door hangers. He got nothing. Okay? I believe that there has to be, at the time that you're pass this to this person, that he has to have an image that this thing is fun. If he get the flyer and don't know about square dancing, you equate it to the hoedown or the toe tap clogging type thing, and a lot of people don't want to do that. And while I'm on that, the other thing I heard, interesting thing I heard, we can't compete with the people that's going to the jazzercise, the exercise programs and so forth. Why can't we have that in square dancing? If people want to come out and you're a good enough caller and got enough breath like most callers that I know do, why don't you just get up there and say, we're going to have a marathon square dance? If you want exercise, I'll give you exercise. We're going to dance for 45 minutes straight, and we'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll do another 45 minutes. Have you got the same thing that these girls are getting at their exercise program with a boom box? It looks to me like you would have. Okay? Some of the places that we haven't explored very good on getting people into our activity. Alcoholics Anonymous. Who can you think of needs us any worse than those people? They're trying to kick a very, very bad disease. Their family is involved because they want, they're victims of the disease also. They need an outlet, and we got the product. And how many selling it to AAA? Well, I wouldn't go over there. I wouldn't sell it over there. That gentleman right there is it successful, sir? Moderately. At least we have somebody involved in it. The police departments and the police association. High incidence of divorce and alcoholism. Correct? Tim Crawford was telling me that in his area, the Ontario Police Department had him come in and do a one-nighter for their association. They have a big building with a bar in it and everything, and he just had massive amount of people. And when the one-nighter was over with, everybody, instead of going to the bar, went home. They were tired. They were mentally exhausted. They felt good about themselves. They hadn't drank during the night. They had another one. At the end of his third one, they told him that he wouldn't be coming back because the bar wasn't making any money. Okay, now that's a bad situation. That's a good situation that turned bad. But think about those things that we can get involved in. Church group, the young adult class in churches. In the area that I'm involved in, they always have a great time. We have just never ever done it at the right time because we start square dance lessons in September. Well, folks, we changed that this year. One of my association members is in here with me. 3 weeks ago, we started the 10-week program that I've written about. It's been in the magazine and so on and so forth. And we're going to offer square dance lessons year-round and start classes every 10 weeks. Okay? And hopefully that program will give the people that are trying so desperately to get in an outside activity that want to, but they couldn't necessarily take lessons at the same time that their people came out, that they only have to wait 10 weeks perhaps to get back in lessons with their friends and remain those people's friends. Because after a year of square dancing, learning the square dance, how many of you in here can justify say that you kept the friends that you had when you started square dancing, and they didn't. After a year, they have found other avenues and other friends. You have now found new friends and other things for you to do, and you're no longer social friends. You're just remote friends. But if we could have got those people in square dancing 10 weeks after we started, perhaps that would have been a good thing also. Okay? Coupon books. I've heard several people in here that's getting in on a coupon book deal, that sends around and gives you so many free lessons. I have no feeling one way or the other of that, and don't know how, but I've heard a lot of people mention that. Garage sale, I thought that was a great idea. Never thought about it. That's what we're here for, okay? That is a great idea. We need to share that with everybody. Put your advertisement in the garage sale section. Get down there where you get people reading about it. The plants that we have and all these big businesses that we have that's always looking for something, get involved with them. See if you can't do something for them. And now I'm speaking for me, okay? Demos are very important. But demos that I have seen and I have participated in and which I am trying to change that in my demos are too professional. The people think we're professional dancers, folks. We are too well dressed. We tell them it's an inexpensive hobby, and we're sitting there in $300 outfits and things of that sort. They're not stupid. They know better than that. The caller is up there calling and doing a good job, but we're concentrating so hard on what Stan is calling, we don't want to break down that we're not smiling. We're not having a good time. I suggest it would be good to break them down in a gentle way and tell them, that we're just having fun here. And then the other thing is you must get the audience involved. Get them up on the floor and do a little do-si-do with them. And while you got them up on the floor, make sure those people that's dancing with them, your angels or your dancers, make sure that they are prepared at that time when the tip is over with to make an offer to these people to join lessons and have lessons available for them. Now, it's very difficult to me, and has been for years, to say, I'd like for you to take square dance lessons. And they say, oh, I'd love to. This is the most fun. When can I do it? Well, it'd be 9 months. Well, those people is gone. We're kidding ourselves. Okay? Now, I will give you a couple other things. How many was not in the RPM committee meeting yesterday morning? Okay, so I won't be duplicating myself too much, okay? You want ideas for marketing. I'm just going to go down them. And I might have or might not have a comment, then I'll quit. Stan has probably got a couple more, then we'll take anything that you all have to say. From an ACA, American Callers Association member, came to me and said, okay, he said, Keith, I'll do anything for square dancing. He said, I heard up in the Pennsylvania area where they printed up free tickets to take to the radio station. It's always giving away something on a radio station to the 7th caller, right? Well, we're going to give away square dancing. So they printed up a bunch of tickets and gave away free lessons. 3 lessons, 5 lessons, whatever you want. And told the caller or told the radio station anytime you need fill in, if you know what I'm talking about, when things are between music or between news articles. Hey, folks, to the next caller, the 7th caller, I'm going to give away 2 tickets to the Modern Western Square Dance to be held down at the local Civic Center. And see what happens, okay? From one of our members here, yard signs. We are working on that as a CALLERLAB group right now. The yard signs, it says, I am a square dancer or square dancing for the time of your life or something to identify us in our yards and so on and so forth that way. One of the members that's in here today brought up the fact that when we come into town, we do not have a sign signifying that this town is a square dancing town, like it's a Lions Club, like it's a Rotary Club, and all that. And we need a sign that says we are a square dance town that non-square dancers can recognize. Okay, so we're working on that. How about holding a free soup bean supper? Doesn't cost very much, does it? A free soup bean and cornbread supper. Free. My goodness, you for 25 pounds soup beans go a long way. So anyhow, and when you get the people out and get them and make up some reason to be there and that you're going to have a little raffle and all the money raised for this donation for this Sumi goes to somebody, and then get them up and dance them. Be prepared to have your dances there and get them up and dance. Johnny Wyckoff down in Texas, one of the great ideas that Johnny had was he seated the crowd. He had to do the state fair for 7 or 8 days and whatever it was, and he knew how hard it was to get people up and demo and all that. So he got 4 squares of dancers in Western wear, and he got 4 squares of non-Western wear square dancers and had them in the crowd every day. And he'd say, he'd get up there and do a little demo, and he said, now I want to get everybody involved. Would you all like to square dance? And come screaming out of the stands, yeah, I'll do it. And here they all come, man. Everybody said, hey, they're going to do it, I'm going to do it. That's, that's ingenious. That's, we're doing things right there. You only got 7,000 names. All right? Steve Cottman. And we all know the Cottmans and their choreography, and they're noted for their advanced level and challenge level. And Steve Cottman called on my voicemail and was so excited. It was really great to see somebody like this. A church had asked him to do a one-night stand, and what would his fee be? He said, I don't want a fee. He said, I'll tell you what to do. If you make it a charity type thing, and we'll raise money for that charity, name your charity, and I'll come and do it for nothing. We'll just take that and raise. So they said, well, we'll do that. We'll name Habit for Humanity as our charity.
So the front side of your...
Got the church out and got all the people out and had about 200 people there and called to them and got 4 squares of new dancers in his new basic club that he hasn't done for many years, and the church provides the facilities and babysitting for him now. Okay? That's easy. That's the easy stuff that we're doing. Jerry Junk, out in you'd think out in the snow belt, or the snow where the snowbirds go. There's fierce competition out there for the dancers that's coming in. He said to any of my dancers that dance with me regularly that bring a couple out for square dancing, I'll give you a free pass to any sessions that I'm doing. 8 squares. They got him 8 squares, and he said, Keith, that's pretty good out there this year. So there's another thing, And he said the nice thing about that was they took possession of the dancers. You don't have to worry about the new dancers being there. His dancers that's sponsoring these people see to it that they're out there. All right? Dana Schimmer down out in Kansas, he gave free lessons for physical education teachers. So that when they went back and taught their students, they would teach them do-si-do the way we do it. And for that, he also got a lot of school teachers in his next class of lessons. Okay? Otto Waterman, Houston, Texas. I guess there's a commercial fax number that you can actually pay these people, and they will fax everybody that they've got a phone number for. And they paid to have faxes sent to all these people that receive these general faxes, okay, and they sent them out, and they received. I forget what Otto told me he had, but anyhow, they got some nice people out of that. So what I'm saying, all these things are very simple to do, very cost-effective. We're just not doing because we're standing in the background waiting for the dancers to do that, and it's not going to happen. Has it happened? Can anybody in here tell me? There's still some good clubs out there that's got good management, but most of the management that I see today and the travelers that I do, and I'm sure Stan will tell you the same thing, are brand new dancers that have been forced into the office. So if that's a situation, they not only don't know, they're very inexperienced. Even if they knew how to do it, they would be inexperienced. So whatever we can do to sell the product, the one thing I'd like to reiterate that I feel strongly about is it's no secret. We do not have a product to sell as long as we're selling it once a year. Ask any professional advertiser. Okay? Give that some thought. Stan.
As you were talking about the giveaways, I just remembered there's a guy somewhere that showed me this. It's a replica of a $10 bill, and of course on the back is the promotion for the particular dance program, and it says receive a free $10 bill in place of this if you turn this in, if you will just attend our introductory program 3 times. Now, and that's a free remember now, you're going to say, well, wait a minute, I'm not going to give away $10. I'm the caller. I'm not going to give away $10 to people that come 3 times. But for him it worked because he got a whole slew of people to come bringing their $10 replica of a $10 bill and taking the lessons for 3 times, just beginning lesson stuff. You know, you got to spin your wheels for 3 times, you know, to get more people in. And by the time they finished, he had 5 sets. And yes, he lost a couple of sets. He lost some people he had to give the $10 to. But it was well worth it for the people he did get who stayed on and continued on to the rest of the class. So for him, it was valuable. So you got to think about that one carefully and think, well, will that work? But yet it worked for him. So some of these things work and some don't, and some will work in one case and not another. I'm not sure, Art, if that would be $1 would do it. I think maybe the 10 has more clout. I don't know. So the other thing that Keith mentioned yesterday, and I don't think was mentioned today, which I think is important because I just did this a few weeks ago. I went to a Rotary meeting and told them what square dancing is all about. And I think we're missing the boat. Keith said yesterday, do you realize that Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions, and all are searching for programs for their weekly meetings, their weekly noon meetings? Now, if you can get away or get somebody to present a weekly 1 hour or less, little less than 1 hour program for these people, they'll buy it. They'll take it. And then you can give a plug. Now, in the Rotary, in some cases, some of the guys are over the hill like I am, but there's still young people in some of these clubs, and especially in the Junior Chamber of Commerce, and they're looking for programs too. So you might remember again that there's a good source for your presenting what square dancing is all about in a lecture, maybe even a demo type program for that group. Absolutely. When you get in there, there are some good handouts, good material that have just come out recently, and some of it was in directions. If you look back in your directions, you'll find that the health benefits of square dancing. And I think that needs to be said. And when you put a handout in place of everybody that you hand it to, in fact, and especially in a captive audience like a Rotary Club, Kiwanis Club, make sure that you give them something to be looking at while you're speaking or just after, and let them take it home. And one of the big things that you got to have on there is, here are the health benefits. Right down the line, you quote a doctor as having said this and so forth, and you're going to, and the Mayo Clinic, right, and all the rest of the goodies that we've got for backups on this. Okay, I'm just going to mention some other things real quickly. Some may be in this 54-way thing, but Mayor's proclamation in the news media, don't forget that. City entrance signs you mentioned. Legacy has one already in place for a city entrance sign. You can buy that from Legacy. There are Legacy people here, and in fact, I want to give you a couple phone numbers if you're interested. Since Legacy has both the promo pack available and the aluminum street signs for $25 ready to go, I'm going to give you the Legacy phone number in case you'd like it for information. That's 414-567-3454. I'll repeat that in case you might have missed it. Area code 414-567-3454. That's the Legacy program in Wisconsin. They can give you all the information on that. And one more, the USDA, United Square Dances of America, have some stuff. They have free brochures. One of them is called Recruiting New Dancers, and the other one is called Retaining Dancers. Sometimes it's just as important to retain them once we get them, right? Okay, and that's what Keith's committee is all about. RPM, as you know, talks about maintain and keeping them, retaining them, as well as recruiting them. Okay, the USDA phone number in Salina, Oklahoma is I'm sorry, I got it here somewhere. 9180. Salina, Oklahoma. It says. Is that wrong?
Salina's right.
Okay. Wait a minute. Legacy. I thought I had their phone number too. No, all I got is an address. Okay. Well, I'll give you an address for them anyway. Route 2, Box 479, Salina, Oklahoma, 75365. So there's good stuff available all around us, and I think we ought to take a look at it. And back to Keith.
If I would, back to the demo situation also, and we had a couple of demos that I observed or saw tape of, and at the end, the commentators, the non-square dance, non-informed commentator made derogatory remarks about, well, one of them said, "Would you do that?" And the other said, "Not in my lifetime." Well, what was the sense of being on TV with square dancing? I suggested if you are asked to do a demo and asked to perform in front of an audience, that there's an agreement ahead of time between you and the MC or whoever's doing the commentary that will not enter into their commentary, or just don't do it. That a comment from somebody like that outside of the activity probably hurt worse than not doing the demo at all. Okay, I'm going to turn it over now for questions. You will have to come to the microphone to ask him, or I can't recognize you because we're on tape. Yes, sir.
My name is Dan Koft. I'm from New Jersey. 2 items that I've seen to be at different times, because, as you said, things go in cycle, were very successful. One was a caller had magnetic copies of his business card made large size and tacked them on the side of his car. Drove around town with that. And people would pick it up and, okay, yeah, for barn dances and such, but then that is getting the word out. At a number of one-nighters that I do throughout the year, I will, request that people, if you're interested in further information, contact me, and I take down, come up and ask me, and I take down their names and phone numbers, and I make sure that they get information as soon as possible. And I also do that. I especially spotlight that in August and early September, so that because those are happening right before the dancer run clubs in our areas put on their classes. One very, very successful class in our region, they did country western lines and couple dances and squares. That's the way that the class started. Somewhere between that time and the time they graduated, they moved more and more into squares. The class was very successful with that hook to get them in with that type of dancing. Plus, not quite bait and switch, it was mentioned in the advertising too. And finally, what is the big catchword? Western dancing. Don't forget, don't simply say square dancing. What is this that we do? Modern Western square dancing. You put that word in there and you are likely to catch more people than if you simply say square dancing.
Thank you. Hold it. We have a gentleman standing down there before you two jumped up. Let him up in front, please. Yeah, line him up. That'd be the best way.
Thank you. My name is Bob Engel from Walnut Bottom, Pennsylvania, and I have a question on your 10-10-10 program.
Yes, sir.
It sounds very nice, but I have a problem with, you're 30 weeks down. What are you doing with these people? I don't, I'm working with 2 clubs and 2 other classes, which ties up 4 nights a week. I guess what I'm saying is, it has to get to a point where you cannot handle the people that are coming in. Do you spread it out to other callers?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, we have 3 callers lined up right now in our association that is going to handle the lessons and until we see where we are going. The point is well taken, okay? Because after the first 10 weeks, you bring in another group of students and move your 11th week students to an hour and a half later in the evening, okay? And bring the students in at the regular starting time for beginners, hoping that your 11th week dancers will angel the new ones. I mean, after all, that's who we're depending on to bring the people out. When we get into the 20th week, okay, we don't know, if you're like me, I don't know where I'm going to be in 20 weeks. I have a general idea. I don't know where we're going to be, but whatever it be, we need to do something for the 20th week graduates. We know what we're going to do with the second 10th week graduates, and we know what we're going to do with the other ones. We don't know what exactly we're going to do with the 20th week graduates, and what we're hoping is, in our area, we have no mainstream. We strictly, our plateau level is plus, right? Adolescents to plus, okay? So we're hoping that will perhaps, one of the callers that it's not as busy as some of us will see a need for a mainstream club, and we'll be able, hopefully in 20 weeks, to be able to take enough of them over to that he can start a mainstream club with them, knowing that every 10 weeks they'll have to back down and pick up the people that's coming in and take them into mainstream.
These people have brought their friends.
Yes, sir.
The second 10 weeks.
Sure.
After their friends are in, then that basically they're split up again. He's going to take them maybe to another night.
Only at the 20-week level, but we hope that wouldn't happen. What I see happening is those people are going to angel their friends right on through until they graduate and can come over. And there's always going to be that separation, but it's not a year. We are in a year's separation now. So it's not going to be a year. It's the same thing.
Okay, as you all well know, here in the United States, situation there's a variety of size, population, and everything as to how to. So your how to changes. And what the gentleman was just talking about, that 10-10-10, in the area where I'm at, which is Tulsa, Oklahoma, we have a district that's doing the 10-10-10 district lessons, and the Caller Association has linked with the district lessons, and we take 2 callers per set, and they take that lesson through the first 10 weeks basics and then the mainstream, and at that point they start another set, 2 more callers, and they take them right on through. The angels come in without wearing their badges. They wear a blue card with their name on it. That means they're an experienced dancer. And the lessonees have a white card with their name on it. And they take these dancers through the lessons, and then they take them back to their club. This was designed because folks in smaller clubs can't afford to rent a building, to pay a caller for 3 couples. So district took over and said, gang, bring those 3 couples down. We'll put the lessons together for you. We want the square dancers out there dancing. Our first class was 67, and if we can keep going that way, we're going to do just fine.
67 students.
67 students.
That equates to about nearly 16 squares.
Yeah, which is all right.
How many's got 16 squares in your class? Okay. All right.
So what I was saying is that the system works, but you have to get past your ego, guys and gals, as callers, and decide that you're working for the square dance community, because, after all, they pay the bills. Another thing to look at is your Veterans of Foreign Wars, your Fleet Reserve Associations, your NCOAs, if you have those organizations in your towns. They would love to have you come out and do a one-nighter. And I would suggest that you do your one-nighters in August, if you happen to start in September. Look at the Scottish Rites Clubs, the Moose Lodge, the Elks, the FRA. These places, Freemasons, and Kiwanis and Lions was also mentioned. Just go to your phone book and look at those organizations there, and go down as a caller and offer your services. And then if you do that one-nighter, you're prepping yourself before your class. So you're actually giving them that advertisement. And then say, hey, if you think you're having fun tonight, come on down Wednesday night, and et cetera. When you were talking about going out in front of Walmarts and Kmarts and stuff like that and demonstrate, you take 1 square of square dancers, they're dressed in square dance attire, and the other half in normal attire that are out, you're still selling tickets or whatever you're selling. Then when you square up, just square up with at least 1 couple from your club that's dressed in normal civilian garb, if you want to call it that, 3 couples in square dance attire. And anybody coming out of the car and walking into the building, they see somebody that's not exactly square dancing. So it's one of those anybody can do it type things.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you very much. And what was your name, sir?
Oh, Bob
Rollins.
Thank you, Bob.
Norman Forgash, Rockland County. Just 3 short ones. Our most advantageous thing is we've been using the adult ed centers. First of all, you get to school for nothing, and the caller is paid by the adult ed, and they're always looking for programs. Mm-hmm. The second thing is we're lucky enough to have a community college. Community college sponsors classes for senior citizens. Again, the whole deal is the college pays the caller, and they do all the advertising for you. The third thing is the Dancers Association in Northern New Jersey every June sponsors a contest. The prize is I was going to say war bond, but a $25 savings bond.
Showing your age.
I know. And they sponsor a contest for a poster. And after the poster is designed, the posters are printed up professionally and are given to the clubs who are sponsoring dances, and those are the posters that are put around town. And last, a few years ago, I don't know what happened to it because you gentlemen did not mention it, CALLERLAB used to have a video that you could give out to the cable networks.
Yes,
now, the
sir.
cable networks are, by law, supposed to put on cable for X amount of time anything that the public wants them to put on. They have special channels for that. And at that time, you put on that video with a tagline for the classes you are running. And we tried that a couple of times.
Let me respond to a couple of his comments. And first, I appreciate your comments, and let me tell you what my experience has been with the community college and the adult education series. That's all well and good, but the square dancers don't work a lick towards that for you because it's been sponsored by the adult education or the community college. Generally, the people that come out there are the people that are going through the college or associated with the college or going to college and taking a class with it. It would be very nice if your dancers would get behind that also, but most cases I've found that they don't, and the caller's out there by himself as a rule. So if you try that, have your dancers backing you is what I'm saying.
I'll sponsor them with the
Very good. His club, for the record, his club sponsors them. Yes, sir.
I have two questions. First of all, about a year ago in Directions, there was an item about a video that CALLERLAB was supposed to be putting out and was going to be on television to let people know that we're out there. I don't know about other parts of the country, but in the New York City area, I come from Long Island, I have not seen it. Now, I do understand there is a short video that goes along with the new song and dance, which we're supposed to put on the air. I also understand from other local callers that what the stations want from us in order to put that video on the air is simply out of the question.
That's correct.
My other question concerns, you were talking about Steve Cottman's experience a little while ago, and you mentioned babysitting.
Mm-hmm.
Again, from where I come from, that opens a whole new can of worms, and God forbid something happens to one of those kids, you are in deep, deep trouble.
Yes, another experience that had been in the Lexington area quite some time ago. They gave free lessons and free babysitting. Had a very, very, very large group of people come out and take the lessons, and then when the lessons all with and they were ready to farm them out to other clubs, and they realized that they'd have to pay for their own babysitting and pay dues to the clubs, it folded. Sir, would you state your name?
No, sir.
Have you recently escaped from somewhere, sir?
I take the Fifth Amendment. I've been watching the OJ trial. I know how this stuff works. You can't win. Whenever look for promotional possibilities everywhere you go. Like you go in a restaurant, there's a bulletin board. Stick your business card up there. It costs 0.6 of a cent. You have a group. You're going to go to the baseball game out at your local AA baseball team. Now, if you show up at the game, hey, we want you to put on the scoreboard that the square dancers visit you. They won't do it. You have to call them in advance. But it's easy to do. You call them, hey, we've got 10 square dancers coming out, and they put up Southern Swingers Square Dance Club, welcome you. Every little bit helps.
Yes, sir. And what he's saying, every chance we get, and we had to advertise to do it, and we had a newspaper gentleman yesterday in our RPM committee that said, we need every week in your local paper, you need to have something on square dancing. If it's nothing more than announcing your schedule. But it'd be nice that and the small square dance, or the small communities, newspapers will put that in there for you because they are like radio stations. They're looking for fill from time to time. So it'd be nice if the association or some real dynamic person would take that upon themselves, and I'll get something in there every week if I have to lie about what the caller's doing. Go ahead.
Bob Rollins, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. I had written down a lot of things here, and there was 3 things that I needed to ask you real quick. These yard signs, is someone at the national level, if you will, going to print these things up so that smaller groups can order?
Yes, sir.
50 or 100 of them?
Yes, sir.
Excellent, because I tried to price those things at home.
That's the idea right now, okay?
It was too expensive to do it at home, but it's a super good idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if you run into that too much detail, but the other thing was information centers, chambers of commerce, and as you cross that state line, there's a little house on the right that says whatever it says about the great state of Oklahoma. We put information in there about square dancing as you move into our state.
Mm-hmm.
You do the same thing as you move into the town. Because folks move and they square dance, and if they know where the club is, they can go there.
Yes, and the other thing about that is, how many of you have your organization or a square dance in the yellow pages? Yes, sir.
Boris Plummer, New Jersey. One of the things that we've been looking at is television, and I was wondering what CALLERLAB or Legacy has been doing on the national level for television. I mean, we at the local level can go to our local stations and maybe go to our talk shows that are locally, but on the national level, that's sort of out of our hands. And I was wondering what the higher organizations, such as CALLERLAB, is doing on that level.
We are really and truthfully, we're exploring a national spokesperson possibility through my committee, such as Dolly Parton, Ricky Van Shelton, I don't care, national sponsorship from a corporation such as Disney World. But we are, as far as I know, and I'm speaking as a board member here, and I ought to know specifically, but I don't know everything, we're not doing anything towards national advertisement on TV. It is phenomenally way out of our league. We must get Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Coors beer, whatever it takes. Scratch that off, would you please? You know what I'm saying here, folks. It's just phenomenal what the prices are, and there's no way our organization, or I don't think CALLERLAB should be expected to do that. It's way out of our league.
The other thing is when you are working with demos and you bring new people from outside, the spectators, one of the things you're going to have to look at is insurance. Watch out for any accidents,
yes,
because you are liable.
Right. Thank you. We got, not to hurry or anything, we have about 10 minutes.
Cale Stillson from Appleton, Wisconsin. In our area, it's hard to get into the daily newspapers. We have one caller who has tried. He gets calls from the special interest groups to do dances, like seniors, scouts, church groups, where your fees are low anyway. He waives his fee if they will get news coverage into the newspaper. And that puts square dancing in a good light, and it gets his name and square dancing out in front of the public.
And also like the blue flu that the police departments tend to have every once in a while, you can reverse that, and if your local newspaper will not put anything in there about square dancing, then you organize a campaign to call them every hour on the hour all day long and complain about that, and you'll see real quickly that they will put your article in the magazine in a society section or somewhere. Yes, sir.
I mentioned yesterday in the session about getting a better perception. Dan Prosser from Central Pennsylvania, that square dancing is perceived in the United States very poorly. You alluded to that earlier. One of the clubs in Central Pennsylvania, with a small country western station, they were asked to do a demonstration one time, and were going to be paid for it. And the caller said, "Look, I'll provide dancers and demonstrations at anything you do that has a western theme. If you will, when we have a dance or a special thing that we're doing, if I can call your DJ and he'll give us a plug." And he said they have such a good rapport that the DJ will do a half an hour, little spots between things about what the square dancers do and this sort of thing. These same people dance at a mall free because they do demonstrations at the mall and they promote all the stores in the mall. So these things can be done. You just have to be willing to invest some time.
Yes, sir. To that end, also, CALLERLAB is just not standing still, folks. We have a lot of things that we're looking at, and one of the charities, we're looking for a charity to, if you will, buy in with. Okay? There's been several mentioned, and there's been some, and we don't know how that's going to be, but let's take for instance, if we would buy in with the Heart Association, and that square dancing suddenly started appearing on their literature, and we don't know what we have to do to get into that, but I'm sure there's money involved raising of funds for the Heart Association, but we've done that. We're doing that all the time, aren't we? Well, let's get something out. So we're looking. The CALLERLAB's not standing still. We are doing that. Did you have something you was going to say? Oh, okay. You escaped again.
Yes, sir. Shoe Care from Louisiana. It's speaking of Heart Association, it's really easy to get any type of square dance flyer on the bulletin board at a cardiac rehab center. The patients that escape from there are looking for an exercise.
Very good. Very good.
One comment. I got a business card 20 years ago. It's still sitting on my dresser. I see it every once in a while. I never forget the guy's name. It had a nickel on it, and the guy's name was Dave Nichols. So your Stan's concept of that, nobody will throw away a business card with a nickel glued to it or even a penny glued to it. Not a bad promotion if you work some lines out around that thing. The other thing is baby boomers. Baby boomers are between 40 and 50 now. Everybody else has marketed them, and we haven't. They're now at the age where their kids are 20 and gone. They're starting to reestablish their marriage after the kids leave, and they're looking for something to do as a couple. That's a market we need to aim at, I think, and it's a market we need to aim at in that format. Here's something you can do as a couple now the kids are gone. I think one of the problems with that is we bring younger people into old clubs, especially extremely old clubs where the average membership is, maybe you got 2 square, 3 square, and the average membership's in the 70s. They're not going to enjoy it. If you're going to target that market, you might think about targeting a separate club.
Thank you for having the guts to say that, sir.
Sitting here, I got a couple ideas. This is Art Butlack from Buffalo, New York. Well, one of the things we didn't mention as a place to promote square dancing is in mobile parks. They usually have a rec center, so that would be a good place to advertise. There's mailboxes there, a lot of homes, a lot of people living in, a lot of retired people. The other thing is, one of the big ads you'll see in today's papers are the date makers. Are you familiar with the date makers, where you put in an ad so you can meet somebody? Personal column. Yeah, well, our papers have a whole page of date makers now. That would be a good place to put an ad.
And put your name in there, right? Put Art's name. Do you want to wrap it up, Stan?
I'd like to say just a word or two, since we have a couple minutes left. Thinking of demos, you can't help but remember back a few years ago some of the things that happened. One time, the Western Sizzler, we thought, Western, wow, good name. Well, let's put a demo on right in front of their place, a nice stretch of macadam, beautiful for a demo. So we arranged with the management, and we put on a demo in front, and we had the people all watching and everything. But unfortunately, in front was a busy highway. And you saw right in the middle of our demo, one guy ogling our group smashed into the car ahead of him. We had an accident right there. So maybe just might be cautious where you do this. Legacy made a study a while back about how dancers come into the activity. I'm sure that the Nixons, or at least Hardy sitting back there, might want to say, Hardy, would you just stand up and raise your hand? Because we have a person right here, Hardy Nixon from Legacy, and you might want to ask him a question or two about some of the Legacy things. But one of the studies they made, they do surveys and so forth, one of the studies they made, how did you find out about square dancing? So 5,000 people responded. How did you find out? The biggest way they found out, and Keith has said this, personal contact. Don't forget, demos was high on the list, performing before the public, but you've got to couple that with that personal, shoulder-to-shoulder, hand-to-hand personal touch, and handing out something to them personally, and not like Keith said, necessarily putting a bunch of flyers somewhere where you don't have anything personal about it. Another study that was made by another group, he mentioned flyers. They put 1,000 flyers in bags at the grocery store. The clerks put slip the flyers in the grocery bag and they go home with it. One couple out of 1,000 is all they got. Okay, one couple. So